Tonight, you will lie down in the dark and wait. You will close your eyes. You will tell yourself to sleep, and nothing will happen. Your mind will wander to a conversation from 3 years ago. Your legs will feel restless. You will check the time, do the math on how many hours you have left, and somehow feel even more awake than before. You have done this hundreds of times, and every single time, the harder you try, the further sleep gets. But here's the strange part. You are not broken. You are doing exactly what your ancient brain was designed to do. Sleep is the one thing in your life you cannot force. You cannot will it into existence. You cannot push through it like a task. And the reason for that is stranger and older than you think. It reaches back millions of years. It is written into the architecture of your nervous system. And once you understand it, the nights you lie awake will never feel quite the same again. Start with the basics. Your brain has 2 operating modes. There is the mode where you are alert, scanning, processing, ready to act. And there's the mode where you are quiet, restored, rebuilding. These 2 modes cannot run at the same time. They are not a dial you turn. They are a switch. And the critical thing, the thing that changes everything, is that you do not control the switch. Your brain does. The system that governs this switch is called the autonomic nervous system. It has 2 branches. The sympathetic branch is your accelerator. It floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline, sharpens your focus, tightens your muscles, raises your heart rate. The parasympathetic branch is your brake. It slows everything down, drops your core temperature, quiets your thoughts, and opens the door to sleep. Here is the problem. The moment you try to fall asleep, you activate the sympathetic branch. The act of trying is an act of effort. Effort is alertness. Alertness is the opposite of sleep. Neuroscientist Matthew Walker, who has spent decades studying sleep at the University of California, Berkeley, calls this one of the great paradoxes of human neurology. The harder you try to sleep, the more you signal to your brain that something important is happening right now, and your brain, being your brain, responds by staying awake to handle it. Think about what that means. Your brain cannot distinguish between the stress of a predator outside your cave and the stress of trying to hit 8 hours before a Monday meeting. To the ancient circuits deep in your brainstem, urgency is urgency, threat is threat, and sleep, for most of human history, was something you did when it was safe, when the fire was still burning, when someone else was on watch, when your body finally exhaled and said, "Nothing is coming for you tonight." Your ancestors did not set alarms. They did not schedule sleep like a meeting. They did not lie in the dark mentally rehearsing what they needed to do tomorrow. They slept when their bodies told them to, and their bodies told them to when the environment was right. Dim light, cool air, physical exhaustion from a day of actual movement, the absence of perceived threat. These were the conditions that flipped the switch. These were the signals that said it was safe to go under. Psychologist Allison Harvey at UC Berkeley has studied what she calls sleep-related cognitive arousal, the mental chatter that keeps people awake. Her research shows that the thoughts keeping you up at night are not random. They are almost always threat detection loops. Worry about the future, rehearsal of past conflicts, planning for dangers that may or may not arrive. Your brain is doing exactly what brains evolved to do before sleep, scanning for risk, checking the perimeter, making sure nothing is about to go wrong. The fact that the danger is a quarterly report and not a lion does not matter to the part of your brain running this process. That part is old. That part does not understand quarterly reports. So your brain keeps the lights on. It runs the risk assessment. It refuses to hand over control until it is satisfied that you are safe. And the more you try to intervene, the more you confirm there is something to stay awake for. Now go deeper, because this is not just about stress. The mechanism of sleep itself is extraordinary and almost completely involuntary. Sleep is built from 2 competing systems. The first is called sleep pressure, or process S. Every waking hour, a chemical called adenosine builds up in your brain, like water rising in a reservoir. The longer you are awake, the more adenosine accumulates, the heavier and slower your thinking becomes, until the pressure becomes overwhelming and your body demands rest. Caffeine, by the way, does not reduce adenosine. It just blocks the receptors that detect it. The debt keeps building. You just cannot feel it for a while. The second system is your circadian rhythm, process C, a roughly 24-hour internal clock driven by a tiny cluster of neurons in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This clock does not care what time you went to bed last night. It runs on light. Specifically, it runs on the presence and absence of blue wavelength light, which historically meant sunlight. When blue light fades at the end of the day, your brain begins releasing melatonin, a chemical signal that says, evening is here, the time is coming. These two systems, sleep pressure and circadian rhythm, work in tandem. When they align, sleep arrives almost on its own. Your eyes get heavy, your thoughts start to slip, you stop finishing sentences, and if you just let it happen, you go under within minutes. The problem is that most modern humans have broken both systems simultaneously. Artificial light after dark suppresses melatonin production and tells your circadian clock it is still afternoon. Irregular schedules confuse process C until it no longer knows when to release sleep signals. Sedentary days mean adenosine builds more slowly, reducing the sleep pressure that should be pulling you under by nightfall. And then, when you finally lie down, anxious and overstimulated, you activate the sympathetic nervous system and begin actively fighting the one process you need to let go. Research published by sleep scientist Czeslaw Saper at Harvard Medical School describes the sleep-wake switch as a flip-flop circuit. It is designed to be decisive. It is meant to transition sharply from one state to the other, not to hover in between. And one of the fastest ways to destabilize the circuit is to bring conscious effort into it. The moment you start monitoring your own sleep, am I asleep yet? How long has it been? Will I sleep tonight? You hand control to the wrong part of your brain. The cortex, the thinking brain, does not know how to make you sleep. It only knows how to analyze, plan, and worry. And analyzing, planning, and worrying are precisely what sleep requires you to stop doing. There is a therapeutic technique built entirely on this understanding. It is called paradoxical intention, and it was developed by Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, who noticed that patients instructed to try to stay awake rather than sleep often fell asleep faster than those told to relax and drift off. Later research by Allison Harvey and colleagues confirmed this in controlled settings. When you remove the effort, when you stop treating sleep as a goal to be achieved and simply let your body do what it has been doing for hundreds of millions of years, the switch flips more easily. Sleep is not something you do, it is something you allow. Your ancestors knew this, not intellectually, but physically. They were tired because they had moved their bodies. The sun had told their clocks it was time. The adenosine was high, the fire was low. And without trying, without planning, without setting an intention, they closed their eyes and the darkness took them. You still have their brain. You still have their nervous system. Every single cell in your body was shaped by the same evolutionary pressures that shaped theirs. The switch is still there. The chemicals are still there. The circadian clock is still ticking inside your skull. The system works. It has always worked. The only thing that changed is that you started watching it, started trying to manage it, started lying in the dark asking it why it wasn't happening yet. Tonight, when you lie down, you will feel the familiar pull of wakefulness. The thoughts will come, the clock will tempt you, and somewhere in your chest, the old anxiety will begin to rise. But now you know something. That anxiety is ancient. That watchfulness is the same watchfulness your great-great-great ancestor felt in a cave 10,000 years ago. It is not a flaw. It is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is your brain doing its job, checking the perimeter one last time before it hands over control. Your only job is to let it finish. Stop waiting for sleep. Stop listening for it. Stop asking where it is. Your body has been doing this since long before you had words for it. And tonight, the same as every night in the long, strange history of your species, it will come. You just have to stop trying.